Hello all, and thank you for coming back. Tonight we've got Dan Richardson with KLJ, and he is going to give us an update, or not an update, but a report on our Slough study that we did, our master stormwater plan. This is in regards to our Old Tongue River channel here, where a lot of our storm drain empties into. And with that, Dan, I'll let you have it.
Great, thanks, Sam. Good evening. My name's Dan Richardson. Like Sam said, I'm the project manager for the Slough study for the master stormwater plan. I work for KLJ out of our Helena office currently. This evening, I'm just going to give you an update on the master stormwater plan that was recently complete in regards to the Tongue River Slough. And in this presentation, I'm going to give you an overview of the project, talk about why it is needed, what some of the current conditions are, what some of the regulatory agencies are, what we analyzed for the study, and then finally what the final results are in regards to the recommended projects for this study. If I can go next slide there. Okay. So to start out, the image that's shown here is the current floodplain map with the Tongue River Slough highlighted in blue, just kind of orient what we're talking about here. The floodplain map's not taking into account the levees, which is helping drive this project here. I'll talk about that more in a few slides, but what this study examines is the interior drainage, the water that's on the dry side of the levee, and how to address any issues that it may cause or is causing currently. Why do we need to address interior drainage? Well, first and foremost, it's for the safety of the residents. To follow that, it is to protect the structures and property, build a more resilient community, and finally, internal drainage is a critical step in achieving an accredited levee. According to the NFIP, the interior drainage analysis must be based on the joint probability of interior and exterior flooding and the capacity of facilities for evacuating interior floodwaters. Analysis must identify the extent of the flooded area and the water surface elevations of the 1% annual chance flood if the average depth is greater than 1 foot. This information is to be shown on a certified topographic working map. So why do we want to achieve all this? Well, it's to protect the community from things similar to the pictures that we have here. To achieve the first step in this, we at KLJ, we've developed a master plan with the City of Miles City, which lines out different projects in order to address the interior drainage that can address flooding in the interior of the levee. It will allow for accreditation of the levee, and it will be able to protect against things such as ice jams or flooding of the adjacent rivers or minor interior flooding, as some of these pictures are showing in the dry side of the levee there. So as I mentioned earlier, the master plan addressed interior drainage. So to show a little better what interior drainage is, it is to address the natural drainage that is on the interior barriers such as a levee. As a picture on the lower left here shows, the interior drainage is on the interior of the location of the levee, which has the green and red line shown there. The town is in the picture is located on the right-hand side there, and labeled interior drainage side. The Tongue River and the Yellowstone River being on the wet side. So in the schematic in the middle there, the diagram, the right-hand side again is going to be the interior drainage side, and then the left-hand side is where the river would be. So in order to deal with the interior drainage, a plan needs to be set in order to be able to evacuate the natural runoff so that the levee, which is there to protect the community, doesn't act as a barrier that could potentially cause damage to the community. So the first thing to developing a plan is to analyze what the current conditions are. And a couple of images that I've got here are showing the first steps that we looked at. The upper right one is looking at where the drainage goes and how it gets to the endpoint. The image, it's indicating where there are existing stormwater infrastructures and how it makes it to the slough, kind of in the upper left there. for this project, it was essential to determine how the runoff gets to the Tongue River Slough. And this is the data collection phase as indicated there. During this phase, it has also included the survey collection of the slough in order to determine how it drains and see if there's any issues with the slough itself on draining to the endpoint. The second image on the lower left there, it's looking at what the drainage area is actually contributing to the slough. With these areas delineated, we're able to estimate how much runoff will be generated during rainfall events. This is referred to the hydrologic analysis. Once we get this data, we enter all of it into a computer hydraulic analysis program and determine how the runoff gets to the end discharge point, how it will fill up the slough, and can determine if there's any deficiencies in the system that may be causing backed up water or flooding. We found in the slough there are a few areas that don't have culverts or have elevated culverts, which is causing backed up water. The slough wasn't graded at a slope that will drain. And at the end of the slough to the northeast there, if the Yellowstone River is full, there's no way for the water to exit. These findings are all results that we analyzed and looked at in order to come up with a solution to address them. After understanding what is currently happening and what some of the deficiencies are, there are several regulatory agencies that are necessary to coordinate with in developing a project like this. All these are critical to the success of a project. For this particular project, some of the agencies include FEMA, who regulates the floodplain maps. The DNRC is the owner of the slough there. The U.S. Army Corps is necessary for any levee work to coordinate with. The EPA is necessary for permitting, and the DEQ is also necessary for permitting. And of course, Miles City as the owner of the projects. Well, what do the results from analysis show? We developed 4 different alternatives or projects that, once complete, would address the interior drainage. The first one being to do nothing, so it's not necessarily addressing any issues and is what is currently happening for the interior drainage now. So each alternative has items associated with it that will start addressing the issues with the most critical tasks to be completed first. Once all 4 alternatives are complete, the interior drainage will be addressed in order to evacuate the drainage from the dry side of the levee in the event of a storm event. So to go over a couple of these alternatives as to what we found here, this first slide is for alternative 2 and alternative 3, or the first 2 projects. Alternative 2 is the installation of a new regional detention system for the 100-year event. It's shown in the upper right there and shaded in blue there. To go with this new pond, a lift station, an overflow weir, and some new culverts to get to the pond from the slough, and reconstruction of part of the road at the end of the slough are necessary. With this alternative complete, the runoff that is able to reach the new pond will be able to be evacuated in the event of a high water located in the Yellowstone River. Alternative 3 is addressing some of the culverts that are either missing, wrong invert, or undersized. These culverts include to replace and install culverts at North Montana, Woodbury, North 7th, Highway 59, and 4th Street. This will allow the slough to eventually drain all the way to the pond, but still will have ponding within it due to the improper grades in the slough and undersized culverts. So the last alternative or project, alternative 4, replaces an additional culvert on North 3rd to an adequate size, and then regrades the bottom of the entire slough so that it'll have positive drainage throughout. This will allow for the entire slough to actually flow out during storm events and reach the new detention pond. This alternative will require additional permitting as well, as it is causing a lot more disturbance to the slough bed than just the replacement or addition of culverts there. To show the results of what the slough's water profile will look like in a kind of a before and after image, with the bottom profile of the slough, showing here is the water profiles from the hydraulic model that we put together. The top water surface profile is of the slough and how the slough profile looks currently, the one on the left there. Shows how the ground profile is up, has a lot of the ups and downs throughout the slough. It's also showing how the water backs up due to improper culverts throughout, or missing culverts, frankly. So the cyan color fill is how the water will fill in the slough. So that's the filled water portion. After all the alternatives are complete, the profile will look closer to the lower right profile, where the roads aren't overtopping as much and the ground has a grade that will drain, allow for runoff to drain and flow to the slough and to the eventually to the detention pond. With this complete, the water will be able to make it all the way to the pond and evacuate to the Yellowstone River before any critical infrastructure is damaged. One thing to note is that some of the stormwater pipes throughout the town, they may be undersized currently and may cause some localized flooding or ponding, but this can be addressed with minor upgrade projects throughout time and are not an indication that the interior drainage isn't working. For this analysis, we assume that all the runoff is able to eventually make it to the slough, so the culverts are sized appropriately to achieve this. After all these are complete, what do we achieve? Well, the results will not only protect our natural resources by improving the quality of the receiving water bodies, but will protect public health, will provide for flood control, and will help create a more resilient community. We'll create a safer community and will be one step closer for the accreditation of a levee. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try and answer them the best I can now, or if you'd like to contact me at a later time, my contact information is shown here on the screen.
Did anyone have any questions on what Dan presented? One thing I would like to point out is, of course, the question is going to be, when will this, it's always, when is this project going to be done? How is it going to be paid for? Which is a good question, because actually that's going to be our next presentation with Becky Bai. The city is looking into different funding options, not only for the slough project, but also for the Yellowstone levee project. And that will be our next presentation. It's not supposed to start until 6:30, but with usually the amount of people I have on, this is what I have. And so I think I might just do, I'm sorry, let me pause here real quick.